Hello, Wastecasters. Thanks for tuning in again. What another boring and unsatisfying day I've had on the ward today. Really done nothing at all. I've got this new hat though, which is pretty dope. It's got blue lights sewn into it. Does it? I think you can make it flash as well. It's got like different settings. So if you do need to identify me, you can just look for the guy with the blue lit hat on in the ward. On the CCTV. I want to talk today a little bit about the police in the UK. I've had quite a lot of trouble with like the police in the UK in the past, especially in Devon. I've had times that I've been down to visit Charles Cross Police Station in Plymouth with evidence, and I've just been sort of laughed out the door because it represented sort of phone hacking and stuff that they didn't really want to investigate. And other reports of crime. I've had police come knocking on my door telling me to stop putting YouTube videos on the internet because they're upsetting people, and they've spent a good hour driving all the way out to my house to come and speak to me about my YouTube video content. And I was just sort of like, look, if you've got a problem with the content, just flag it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing anything illegal or unwarranted or unlawful. By putting up YouTube videos predominantly of hacked outbound telephone calls that have been recorded on an Android phone. Like the evidence was really damning and indicting, and they were basically there to defend the criminals. And I don't know if anyone who's used to follow me on YouTube remembers seeing that video. I think it was PC Yates and somebody else, guy with a beard, and they were just like, they wanted me to take some videos off YouTube, and it was just like, what the fuck? Got a problem with my YouTube content, just like go through the proper channels. Don't like send police around to my house to try and intimidate me into silence. I've had other big problems as well, like weird multiple visits to my house that made me feel so threatened that I had to leave the area, and I was sort of too scared to go back there for a long time. It's really bad when the police are normally really cool people. Like, I've got a lot of respect for the police. Normally when you meet a police officer, they are like friendly, they have a good level of decorum and intelligence. I don't know, I saw that thing on Amazon, Amnesty today. Don't know if anybody else saw that on the Amnesty Instagram. There's a guy who just had a Free Palestine sign, and he was stood at a roundabout, and the policeman was saying to him, all that stuff you said there about genocide and Israel and Palestine, all of that comes under a prescribed organisation, with conflating basically anything to do with Palestinian protest, pro-Palestine protest with Palestine Action. And that was just like a massive gargantuan leap of totalitarianism, which can't really be sanctified. It's just one officer not doing his job very well, but I mean it does kind of smack of the kind of thing that people are worried about with the encroaching power of concentrated centralization of authority, and this massive bias towards repression and oppression. Anyway, I asked Gemini, I said, I've suffered extensively from police corruption in the UK. How corrupt are the police in the UK? Is there any relevant statistics or research to indicate the severity of the problem? And what's the best way of tackling conflict of interest and corruption, bearing in mind the IPCC are known to be as woefully inept as some senior police at constabularies are? Gemini said, it's understandable that you feel frustrated and concerned given your experiences with police corruption in the UK and your perception of the Independent Police Complaints Commission, IPCC. Let's break down these issues. How corrupt are the police in the UK? It's difficult to give a definitive corruption rate for the police in the UK, as corruption is often hidden and underreported. However, available statistics and research indicate that while the majority, let's get that thing out of the way, of police officers maintain high standards of integrity, there is an acknowledged issue of corruption and misconduct. Relevant statistics and research. Misconduct and gross misconduct. The Home Office publishes statistics on police misconduct. For the year ending 31st of March 2024, there was an increase in the number of police officer conduct matter allegations finalised. 42% increase in the previous year, totalling 5,363 allegations from the Home Office for police misconduct. Total of 4,486 identifiable police officers were involved in finalised conduct matter allegations, equivalent to 2.9% of all officers in the post. So you could say they're 97% not kind of misconduct affected the police. It's quite a good rate if you look at it like that, I suppose. Of the officers referred to misconduct proceedings, misconduct or gross misconduct was found proven for a significant proportion, e.g. 77% in misconduct meetings, 74% in misconduct hearings for gross misconduct. While these figures show a measurable level of proven misconduct, it's important to note that this is based on reported and investigated cases, which may not capture the full extent of the problem. Types of corruption. Research indicates that corruption covers a wide range of areas, including theft and opportunistic theft, organised crime links and drug-related corruption, inappropriate associations, unauthorised disclosure of information, misuse of social media, sexual misconduct. This is a particularly concerning area and is highlighted as a common form of corruption. Abuse of position or personal gain, for example, free goods or services, shakedowns, accepting bribes to not follow through on violations. The fix, which it describes as undermining investigations or losing evidence. That might have happened to me before, I think. The insider fraud, including asset misappropriation. Underreporting. Studies and surveys, including those commissioned by the former IPCC, now the IOPC of course, have indicated that a significant proportion of those who've negative experiences with the police do not make a formal complaint. This suggests that the official statistics may underestimate the true prevalence of misconduct and corruption. Young people, ethnic minority groups, and those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds are often more sceptical, less inclined to complain. Public perception, public trust and confidence in the police can be significantly undermined by stories of police corruption. The role of the IPCC, now the IOPC, and its perceived inadequacies. You mentioned that the IPCC, now the Independent Office for Police Misconduct, IOPC, is perceived as woefully inept. This sentiment is not uncommon. The IOPC replaced the IPCC in January 2018 with the aim of strengthening police oversight and independence. However, historical and ongoing criticisms often include lack of true independence, a persistent criticism of the IPCC and the IOPC. Sorry, I just had to stop while they're doing the obs on my door there. So let's start from the top. Lack of true independence, a persistent criticism of the IPCC and the IOPC as being the perceived lack of complete independence, particularly given that a significant proportion of their investigators often have backgrounds in policing. While the IOPC aims for greater independence, the fact that most complaints are still initially investigated by Police Force's own Professional Standards Department. I've had lots of interactions with PSDs under the IOPC oversight raises concerns. Low uphold rates. Historically, only a small percentage of complaints investigated locally by police forces were upheld, leading to public scepticism about the effectiveness of the complaint system. Slow investigations. Delays in investigations have been a recurring issue, causing further distress and complaints. Limited powers and impact. While the IOPC has powers to direct investigations, recommend disciplinary proceedings and make learning recommendations, its ability to enforce outcomes and truly drive systemic change can be questioned, has been questioned. Transparency. Concerns have been raised about the transparency of the process and the outcomes. The IOPC themselves acknowledge their vital role in ensuring public confidence and that they are part of a wider system. They state they investigate the most serious complaints and incidents and aim to make a positive difference to policing. Best ways of tackling conflict of interest and corruption. Tackling police corruption and conflict of interest requires a multifaceted approach, moving beyond simply relying on existing oversight bodies that are not perceived as effective. Strengthening independent oversight beyond the IOPC. So truly independent investigations. This is perhaps the most crucial point. A system where the police investigate themselves, even with external oversight, inherently carries a risk of bias and a lack of public confidence. Greater investment in empowerment of truly independent investigative bodies, staffed by individuals with diverse backgrounds, not solely ex-police, is essential. Well, I guess I'm not an ex-police officer or a current police officer, so maybe I should be part of an independent investigative body. Increased resources. Ensure oversight bodies like the IOPC have sufficient funding, staff and specialised expertise, e.g. in forensic accounting, covert tactics, to conduct thorough and timely investigations, particularly into complex corruption cases. I don't really think I can do that. It would be great if society did, I guess, but proactive anti-corruption measures. Move beyond reactive complaint handling to proactive, intelligence-led anti-corruption units. I'm not going to be able to make myself one of those, I don't think, both within the forces and independently, using methods like intelligence gathering, data analytics and covert surveillance where appropriate. I've done all the last three, but enhance powers of direction and enforcement. Grant independent oversight bodies stronger powers to to compel action, overturn decisions, and ensure recommendations are implemented across all police forces. Addressing conflicts of interest at the source, clearer definitions and standards. Develop universally clear and robust definitions of what constitutes a conflict of interest, extending beyond financial gain to include personal relationships, secondary employment, and information disclosure. Mandatory and public declarations registers. Implement mandatory publicly accessible registers for officers to declare all private, personal, and financial interests relevant to their duties, including gifts, benefits, and secondary employment. This promotes transparency and accountability. Regular training and awareness. Provide comprehensive and continuous training for all officers on ethical standards, identifying and managing conflicts of interest and the consequences of non-compliance. Stronger internal controls. Implement robust internal controls, audit mechanisms and asset tracking systems within police forces to reduce opportunities for financial corruption and misappropriation. I mean, these are all great ideas. Pre-employment vetting and ongoing scrutiny. I mean, yeah, strengthening vetting processes for new recruits and implement continuous integrity testing, monitoring for serving officers. If, you know, the manager of the Met Police is reading this, please take this all on board. It's kind of useless for me, but thanks, Gemini, for clarifying what the police should do and what we should do as a society. Also promoting a culture of integrity and accountability. Leadership from the top. Senior police leadership must visibly and consistently champion ethical conduct, integrity, and a zero tolerance approach to corruption. Whistleblowing protection. I need some of that. Establish truly safe and confidential channels for officers and staff to report concerns about corruption without fear of reprisal. The blue wall of silence. I've never heard of the blue wall of silence until now, but I've seen it, I'm sure. Strong legal protections and support for whistleblowers are vital. Ethical decision-making frameworks. Implement frameworks that encourage officers to consider the ethical implications of their actions and decisions rather than simply focusing on procedural compliance. Performance management. Integrate ethical conduct and integrity into performance reviews and promotion criteria. Learning from mistakes. Ensure that lessons learned from misconduct cases and corruption investigations are systematically applied to improve policies, procedures, and training across all forces. Public engagement. Foster greater public involvement in police oversight and accountability, for example, through community advisory boards or co-production of policing policies. Legal and legislative reform. Stronger penalties. Review and potentially strengthen legal penalties for police corruption to act as a more effective deterrent. Clarity in law. Ensure that laws related to police conduct and corruption are clear, comprehensive, and enforceable, while acknowledging the complexity of the issue. A holistic approach that prioritises genuine independence, transparency, and a culture of integrity alongside robust preventative and punitive measures is crucial for tackling police corruption and rebuilding public trust. Your personal experience highlights the critical need for effective and trustworthy mechanisms for redress. I don't know if anyone else has ever had the same problems that I've had, and I don't know how often these sort of things happen. And I know that a lot of people have had really good experiences with police officers, like where they've really saved the day and saved their life. I've had those good experiences, times where I've met a cop and I've been so glad to see one, and they've taken me in when I've been having a fucking nightmare and looked after me, sort of, you know, if not censoring me a little bit, or maybe kind of, it's a bit like the NHS. The NHS, you know, saved my life in 2024, but they fucking fucked me in every orifice in the years before, leading up to that. And like, I almost died as a result of their sort of negligence. And my mum did die as a result of their negligence, I feel, to put it mildly. Not about to stop levelling accusations of murder, you know, that's a bit extreme. But yeah, definitely kind of, there was room for improvement. Significant, as a consultant says, when he thinks your business is shit, you don't see the potential you've got here. The NHS and the police, so much potential. They've got, you know, you don't see the potential for improvement is massive. And it's an organisation, they're both organisations with huge potential for improvement. I've got a lot of potential as well. I could really go on to do great things and achieve great things if I wasn't being censored and oppressed and repressed the whole time. People weren't constantly trying to rape, rob, steal from and murder my family members and I. But enough of that. I'm sure you've had nothing to do with any of those things, and hopefully you've enjoyed watching this video. And if you know how I can tackle police corruption, or what to do about dodgy coppers that turn do welfare checks and leave with sacks full of cash and gold, bribes, me a comment or send me an email or a tweet or whatever. I've got my blue light up hat now. It has got a flashing mode as well, but if you need to recognise me on the ward, if you come to find me, I'm the only one with a blue light up, really tacky, slightly too small hat. It is slightly too small. If I wear it like I will look like I work in a kebab house, maybe like a futuristic kebab house. Yeah. Anyway, cheers. Thanks for watching.